What's up, everybody? Let's look quickly in the lecture before we go to the lab, which would be in the field, at what exactly is going on here and making such a difficult project or challenging project out of installing that door. Basically, you've got two different fundamental styles of building around here that I run into. Let's talk about what we build today. We use a poured concrete foundation in terms of cross-section here. He's whatever. Then we put what's called a sill plate on there, or a green plate. That's because it's pressure treated, and he's either drilled to match around J-bolts that are cast in, so the foundation has those sticking out, or in some cases you can drill and use a Tapcon right through him to anchor him down. You put some foam gasket underneath him. That's code to make the transition from treated lumber to concrete, and then we put what's called a rim joist on there, and so that's a floor joist that goes around the rim. And whatever we've got for a floor joist dimension is what our rim joist is made of. So he works out to be flush when the floor joists proper go into the floor box system. And then whatever we've got for a dimension here, like always, if it's a 2 by quote unquote 10, then half of 10 is 5. And we use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fasteners over the course of him to put him together like that. So then we get to a point where we've got a floor box, and the last piece of that is our subfloor, and that's a structural component. Subfloor is not the same as underlayment. Subfloor adds structural integrity to the whole system, and this is a really important step in new home building, because you don't backfill the hole that you dug for this foundation or whatever. I guess your basement's empty. But your hole for your foundation wall that goes down in there, you don't backfill against this, so you don't break it off and have it shove in and break inside until you're anchored all the way up and at least the joists are on. I like to wait until the subfloor is on, then you can backfill. And we've got products and stuff now. You can put different things like liquids right onto the surface of the foundation wall. I guess it's a bit high. We've got other like solid materials. Anyway, that stuff goes to a certain point, whatever you plan on seeing for the grade, and it's just a little bit taller than the grade itself, and the grade goes downward like that. And then we get started framing the house, essentially framing the walls, and we throw our sill plate. These days it's 2x6 in the area of the world that I live. Your outside wall is 2x6, so you put a 2x6 sill plate down, and then you put your 2x6 studs on that, and then you put sheathing around the whole house, and that's a 1/2 inch OSB or zip system or anything else like that, and it comes down over the end of everybody here, and I even like to see it like 1 inch lower than that. And again, we'll use hash marks to designate a sheet good. There, that's how we build something today. Then you're going to come in and you're going to do drywall, and you're going to do baseboard, and then you put your finished floor in here like this, and then you put the quarter round on there. So in the future, when we change our finished floor, it's not under the baseboard, it's not under the drywall. You just pop up the quarter round all around, you change what you've got for a floor, and then you put the quarter round back down. A lot of times these days, people love on Reddit, everybody's so enamored with, oh my God, look at how many layers of flooring underneath this, in this old house. It's because it was built in a different way, or they didn't have the presence of mind to only take the finished floor to the baseboard. If it goes along and underneath everything, that's one of the biggest reasons, or underneath kitchen cabinets is another one, which you don't do. It's one of the biggest reasons people just would add a flooring product down, because the stuff itself was either glued down and it would never come off. It would be a big war. But the way that we design flooring now is that it's just as easy kind of to pop up as it is when it goes down, and so we'll have less and less people in the future discovering all those layers of flooring. This is your typical new build home. All right. Now, alternatively, you used to wander out into the bushes with JoJo and Pa and whatever, and Pa had seen his dad kind of, they went to somebody. This is like Little House on the Prairie times, right? 1800s, early 1800s, whatever. But some of these houses, somebody had seen somebody else kind of figure out how to maybe build something one time in the past in their life. That's about what they had for knowledge, and it's not, not knocking them, but that's what you've got here in a lot of cases, certainly out in rural areas like, in the area of the world that I live. So you went out and if you're going to have a foundation and a basement, holy shit, you were really living life. You stacked up some stones with mortar, whatever you got to work there, and they don't necessarily go all the way through, but they pass and zip zap, bounce all around. But then you were left with no sawmill. You're not going to have a lumber order delivered. You've got trees. And so the fastest way to make something functional out of a tree is to hew, H-U-E, off the sides, just enough, far enough to get the largest square, most functional square out of there, right? There's no reason to take so much off that, to get all of this material off. You just go until you've squared up a log, and then whatever, I mean, you kind of eyeball the trees, you get yourself a group of trees that are about yay, which is what we're talking about doing here. That's what we got for a measurement, yay. They're all about yay, and if we hewn them all up, they all end up being beams that are square by about yay, and that's what we've got for a dimension, and it's about, who knows. So, you put your sill beam on your foundation wall, because that was the easy thing to do, right? You hewn him. Now, this is the way that my building is constructed, although I have a stone foundation. I've got a sill plate. I've got floor joists. Everything's been sawn. It was in late 1890s, but it's an older commercial building. It would have been, one of the first things to get sawn lumber. One of the first, places to be near enough a sawmill, which of course was, I'm on the creek, the sawmill was running on the water wheel, and you could get sawn lumber, and this was going to be an anchor building for the little community here, and so he's, cutting edge where I live. So I've got a lot of what's going on here. I've even got trusses, which we'll talk about another day, but this house didn't have that. A lot of houses that I work on didn't have that, and so it's a little bit older, mid 1800s at least, and because it has hewn beams, but it has sawn, otherwise things are sawn, the joists are sawn, and not everything is hewn. So it's just at that funky time when you could get some stuff sawn, but you wouldn't go so far as to go all in on that. And we see that today. We got old timers that'll use a little bit of new technology, but a lot of what they do is old school, and that's sort of what we ran into here. So then you would end up with joists that are notched into that and cut to clear this here. Sometimes I've seen them, sometimes that works out to be the width of the foundation, so they can just be notched like that. Whatever the case may be here, sometimes they come all the way over there. It just depends, but they sit into a pocket here. All right, and then you've got square pieces that I'll call studs that go up like that were sawn, and the end of them has a tab on it, like a mortise and a tenon here, kind of, and it sits into a pocket into the beam there. And then since for a long time now, people have been additive in there to the floor, trying to make it level, because things, and all this stuff went in green. I mean, like I told you, that was a tree that they squared up. They just cut that down, and once it's square, they sit it here. And everything is like, hardwood, deciduous trees was a real big, that people were a fan of beech and oak. And stuff like that. So it all went in green, which is to say it hadn't dried, and then it dried in place. So things shrunk down, twisted around, and they certainly didn't necessarily go to the full frost depth, which is, the degree to which the cold can freeze water that's in ground moisture. And if it can freeze it underneath here, well, it picks up and heaves. It's a respiration over time. It gets a little every year, over and over and over again, and it could tear your foundation apart and go up and down in different places. If you have a grade like this, and you dig your foundation down like that over here and down like that over here, and you've got a little 2-foot level, and you make your floor level, well, frost can penetrate the same amount in the same zone. So over here he can get underneath the wall, because that's about as far as frost can penetrate. And over here, the frost can't ever get any purchase on this wall, because it can't ever get around and underneath this, right in the same place. It can get underneath the foundation and push it up on this side. It can't get under there and push up. We've never had a cold enough, this is a hypothetical, to get underneath this side. So this side goes up and down, and you basically better, over 100 years, just go and shake it all up. It falls all apart, stones falling all out of here, and this gets all broken and falling down. And it's like, well, this was piss poorly constructed, or it's so old. I hear people say, it's very important, and it's interesting to me what happened there. So anyway, you may get some of that, but people have been additive over and over and over to this floor. And then somebody renovated here and then floated by with drywall. They took it would have been plaster and lath, little strips of wood in here with gaps to allow the plaster to, so the lath goes on gapped out like this. And then the plaster comes along, and it gets shoved. It's an important step, but it gets shoved in, and it kind of mushrooms out on both sides like that. And you'll see that, to look at it when you tear any out, and that's how it was held on the wall, physically like that. And it would harden, because there's nothing really that sticky about it over time. If you can break that stuff off the backside, it just falls right off the front. So anyway, somebody has come through here with drywall at this particular home and put the baseboard up and whatever. So I come through and I take this all out for a door installation, and I've got this giant precipice and these big pockets in here. Not to mention that big rotten hole that's essentially this large in that beam there. And I got to put a door in. Now what happens on a new build, you come through and you take out the shoe and you take off the baseboard, you take down the drywall, the sole plate comes up and you cut on out to the outside. I've got an outside corner here that I can flash with flashing tape, and I can set my threshold on here, and I can go up with my door and bang, bang, boom, we're ready to rock and roll. I can't do that here. I'm trying to do that. I got all this empty space here. You can't have that kind of situation. How are we going to fix that? What's the deal here? So, like I said, we filled that cavity so that we've got a solid beam there. Now we'll redraw this so it's big enough to see, but here's our foundation, and here's our sill beam was tipped out, right? We discovered that for whatever reason, out of plumb. And then our I don't know why this is. There's a bunch. I mean, it would normally have been set, those studs set plumb, but either way they were, or flush to this. But either way, that's the sort of state of it. And here's the wall beyond. It's going up there plumb. And here are all the layers of additive flooring, and her current finished floor is on here too. And the joist's in here, however he may be, and whatever he goes along under there. And that's ultimately what we have here for an issue. So step one, I put a square on here. I dropped it down, whoops, like this. I got a sense of what this dimension was there, and I know that's the same thing that's got to come off here, because look, it makes a rectangle and it makes a plumb surface. So that's what I did. I translated that measurement up and I marked it out on top, and I sliced the face of that beam off. So I'm back to having a plumb face of a beam here, essentially. And I knew the siding's out here beyond, to whatever, I guess it's even more so than that. It's way the hell out there. Either way, then I came back here, and again, I set the square on here. Shouldn't have erased that. But I put a 2x12, which I knew was too big. I put a 2x12 on. I needed the finished floor, and I called this my subfloor level. So I translate that over here. And then I want my subfloor, I know that's 3/4 of an inch, so I know that this is what I need to have installed in here eventually. This is what we're trying to find, how to put that in so that my finished floor comes up to it just like at the state of the new house. So then I start there, whatever that measurement is that makes sense here, and I set my 2x12 to that, and he's overly long, which is why I got a 2x12. I filled this with Great Stuff Pest Control, and I got as much underneath there as I could. So that's my 2x12, who's in here like this. And this is all visualization here. We didn't have any of this in here yet, or any of that, but I got the 2x12 up there, okay? And then I put my speed square on him, or whatever here, and I got a sense of what I needed for a measurement over here on the front and on the back, because that has an angle on it, for a rip of a 2x4 there. And I did that up and down because, of course, over the length of it, it's a taper. And I made that, I got this measurement at one end, I got it at the other end, I got it basically in the middle, and then I took a regular 2x4 here, and I measured to there, to there, to there, and I snapped the chalk line between the two, all of them, and I ripped that piece up. And then I set him down in there with a bunch of construction adhesive. So we filled this cavity with urethane casting resin. We pumped urethane Great Stuff foam all around all these gaps. I pumped out a bunch of polyurethane construction adhesive out here. Then I screwed this guy all the way down, into the top of that beam, and I screwed with those giant ledge lockers right, through here and through there. And again, I got all this purchased now because I filled that with resin. But I've essentially got, now I left this high, a little bit proud, and I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to cut him off just exactly where I wanted him. I didn't want him too low, and I didn't want to have to do so much measuring and because of this angle and everything. I just got close, but too much, and I will cut him off perfectly smooth here. And then we'll come back and I might glue this subfloor, but I might want to take it back out and go thinner. I just can't be absolutely sure here. Ideally, it will be the absolute lowest that we can go, and the problem that we're talking about having is the threshold here, but the door swing. When the door swings out and has a gasket on the bottom of it, I need there to be something between that and the finished floor. I can't have it dragging on the floor, and I certainly on the high side, given the level that it's out, I can't on the high side have the door 2 inches when it swings open above the finished floor. It looks terrible. So we're going to dial this in so that we don't come too close on the low side that we're scraping the floor, and then that'll basically tell us what the high side is. We're just trying to avoid rubbing on the floor, and the high side will be what the high side is. But then when I get this out here, and again, it's about as low as I think I could possibly go. I'd love to be able to install the door right to it, but I may be able to just add 1/4 of an inch to get myself high enough not to scrape. But that I can be additive there, no problem. And we'll pump this full of Great Stuff Pest Control, and then we'll come down here wherever it works out, you know, with the rest of the siding, and we'll cut this 2x12. We'll put a line on it, we'll snap the line there like that. And I may come through and put a little polyurethane roof sealant there, just for good measure, something to keep bugs and things from coming out of there. And I know, you know, I said I didn't want that, you know, sealed up from below before, but I think, in fact, yeah, no, this ends up being additive here. And so, but that's no issue. That's apparently where the siding will go, and we'll side right across the front of this again. I may be even able to add like a layer to something out there. But that'll be how we make all of these changes here and accommodate. This is pressure treated, this is pressure treated, this is all you know, bug control stuff. This is a solid plastic nobody's trying to eat. And ultimately here, maybe, you know, it's very similar to what you'd have. The foundation would be kind of over there, and our joist would kind of come over into the house like this. It'd be nice if you had a sill plate here first, you know, but as you can tell, I've kind of, or you can kind of see, I've kind of created a new build construction right where we needed for this door install. And so, long story short, problem solving. Ugh. Thanks for watching. Let's get back on site. We'll see you.